right. And we also don't have Ina. Okay. So before we do the approval of minutes, do you want to, usually the first meeting of the year, we're we're greeting new appointees and electing the new round of officers, but Tanisha, you might be more articulate about what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, so the city council meeting was canceled because of the weather this month. And so we do not have a new appointed member to announce yet. And because of that, I do think we should probably wait until we have that person before y'all vote on new elected officers.
It's from our December meeting. Tanisha put those on Teams for us and then also emailed that out. I had replied a little late that I had one small edit. I sent that in Teams and via email, so I know both of those can be spotty, so not sure if you guys saw that. But basically my suggested edit was in the Moondog section. It didn't mention anything of the business owner that had come to give remarks to us in response to our original. That person had come and gave remarks. It's not a description of those remarks, just noting that she was present and had done that. So that was really the only edit that I had to the minutes. So yeah, I know you didn't get it because it got a bounce back from you, but it was kind of late. It was like right before I left to come here. So okay. Okay, so if you guys are okay with that edit, then I will take a motion to approve the December minutes with the edit just discussed.
Motion to approve the December 2024 minutes.
Great.
Second.
And a second. Perfect. Okay, and then so all in approval? All right, passes unanimously, so we can move on. And then I'll turn it over to Tanisha for the liaison report.
All right, so the Artsy Lane update, I know someone had asked about this, so I kept it in here, but there really isn't an update. We're waiting for some, basically clarity on weather over the next few months, and still in hopes that it would be done within the first quarter. So once all this kind of crazy weather is behind us, we're going to start looking at some weeks over the next couple months.
The artist will figure out what time frame it is and what's best conditions, and she has a green light.
Yeah, so basically her and I will work together with both her schedule, weather, and any pending city issues, which hopefully there will be no further issues. And then the William Massey update, this is actually a big one this month. I'm pretty excited. We met up with a gentleman named Tony. I am forgetting his last name, I'm sorry. But we met up with this gentleman, Tony, who's a sort of a community leader in the Latinx community here in Chamblee. He's been around for a really, really long time. And he works heavily with Plaza Fiesta on their events and is just a very good community engagement type of person. And so myself and William met with him. We had lunch and talked about how we could reach the community around Dresden Park and kind of come up with a plan for that. He had some really great ideas and offered up far too much volunteer work. And so we're still kind of working to pare that down and really figure out what we want to do. But some of those ideas were asking people at places like Plaza Fiesta or in other locations what their immigration story was, and whether that's through pictures or words or however they want to express that. And this would all be done in their native language. So Tony is a native Spanish speaker, and a lot of his outreach is done in Spanish, including his social media profiles, which are pretty well followed. And he knows people within the consulate for Mexico and the Guatemalan consulate and all these different like social media accounts that he uses to get people to come to these events and stuff. So I think that's going to be a really, really good resource. William seemed very happy with the conversations and kind of the direction that he was gaining through the conversation. And he wanted me to run by you guys. He was hoping to have some sketches today. Oh, this is the wrong phone. He was hoping to have some sketches today, but he didn't feel comfortable giving sketches that weren't the way he wanted them to be just yet. But he did want me to put in front of you a couple things that we had talked about to see if there were just any comments, any notes about this. So one of the big conversations that came out of the lunch was what represents immigration and migration to these particular communities. And interestingly, I did not know this, but the monarch butterfly is the visual representation of migration and immigration. So a lot of, which are two separate things, right? Migration, immigration, but the immigrant community sees the monarch butterfly as a symbol of their process, basically. And so William really kind of stuck with that, and we talked a lot about that. So he said, please let me know if they have any feedback regarding the ideas of abstracted monarchs, mothers with babies on their back, and gathering highlighting immigration stories. Those are the three that I'm working with most as I design.
Sorry, Tanisha, can you repeat those?
Yeah. It was the abstracted monarch butterflies.
Abstracted what?
Monarch butterflies. Did you get it? Can you just
Monarch butterflies. Monarch butterflies.
Okay.
You know the monarch butterflies?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I thought I heard, I just couldn't figure it out.
Mothers with babies on their back, you know, classic kind of symbolism, and then gathering, highlighting immigration stories.
Okay.
He's working on sketches, but those were sort of the
Subjects.
yeah that he's thinking about and just kind of wants to know if we have any thoughts.
So this is for the Massey sculpture? How does this incorporate?
This is the Massey sculpture, yeah.
Okay. So this isn't gonna be like a community thing or anything, like, I don't know, just the mothers with babies on the back just makes me think like all kinds of animals and everything like that, having different people do different animals with babies on the back, that'd be cute, but I don't know, random thought.
Tanisha, okay, I'm sorry, let me clarify. When you were talking about Tony and the leader and his social media presence and all of that thing, are we looking at virtual community events, or are we looking like where he puts out polls and things like that, or are we looking at a physical event?
So that's kind of what we're like narrowing down right now.
Okay.
Originally, the idea was a little large. We were basically thinking, you know, kind of setting up shop at Plaza Fiesta for like a month, where it's a, you know, kind of a tabling event with maybe like a mailbox where people can sit down and write their stories out and leave the story, and he would be taking video. It was like this whole big production, you know. And then we started thinking, well, you know, really we could reach even more people if it wasn't just a physical event, and there was a website, something simple, a Google form that you
Yeah,
could go
okay.
into and leave
Yeah.
information. And so, yeah, I think it's possible that it might be a couple things. And of course, you know, what we're talking about is the Dresden Park area, which isn't exactly the Plaza Fiesta area. Surely there's some crossover, but I would love to see something. For example, we talked about having something in the newsletter for the Dresden Elementary School where, you know, parents could log in and leave information, that kind of stuff.
When does he anticipate having sketches to us?
Well, he was trying to get it done by today, which was a pretty quick turnaround because we just had the lunch on Friday. So it's only been about a week. But, you know, he understands that in order to get the next check, get a next payment, he has to have the next process started. So that's kind of where we're trying to get to right now.
Well, I kind of wonder if sketches are putting the cart before the horse if we haven't done the community outreach part or finished the community outreach part, and if anything that he gleans from that is going to change his vision or direction, then I kind of would say just hold off until that happens and then give us sketches once that material has been collected. That's my thought. I don't mind the themes and subject of the three things here. I don't have any issue with those. I would just say, once we get this community input, that might refine or change direction. And so I don't think I would want to see sketches until that material has been made available to him.
Would that park predominantly be a Latino sort of population, or?
Very much.
Just a whole, it would be? And
Yes.
that's why the communication with the Latino community, with the, what's it called? Festival,
Plaza Fiesta?
Plaza Fiesta. The elementary school that sits right next to the park is something like 98%
Latino.
Spanish as the first
Yeah.
language. Yeah.
And I'm just curious, Monarch fits into the integration and migration sort of concept?
Yeah, it's a symbol of
Yeah,
migration
monarch
and
butterflies are
immigration.
native to Mexico, and that's like where they go to have their babies every year. And then when the weather, so when it's cold, they migrate down to Mexico, and when it's warm, there's a whole path of them migrating back upwards into the U.S., and that's like their pattern of life every year, so.
Sort of concepts of that sort of thing that he would consider besides butterflies?
It's just that apparently the monarch butterfly is already a symbol to that community. It exists already.
There's already, I think, a monarch butterfly mural, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, over by like Green's Liquor Store. I think like if you're heading that way, it's like a half butterfly, half something else, and I can't remember what it is.
Also in front of the Latin American Association building, which is on Buford Highway,
Maybe that's what it is.
down, going into the Brookhaven area where their organization is, they have a butterfly.
Like heading into the, like interstate area? Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. It'd be cool to have butterflies around, you know?
Yeah,
kinda-
and we actually, we have other ones as well in Chamblee because we're a monarch city. We have on the bridge weaving, and also one of the utility boxes has a monarch, I believe.
Yeah, so it ties in with the eco-friendly thing, as they're a pollinator and they're, really
Right.
essential to,
Yeah. Oh, and the
The
high school mural
ecosystem.
has one too,
Yeah,
on the trail, yeah.
it'd be cool to have like numbered ones or not
Yeah.
numbered, but like, find them in the city kind of
Yeah.
thing.
so I'm definitely open to it, but I don't think I care to see sketches until he has the additional community input, because it might change what he wants to do. That's my personal thought, but.
Will you publish this before, once you get the sketches so we can view it online?
Well, it is part of the process for the sculpture
Yeah,
for us, for this body to approve the design.
okay.
I also would love to know, and maybe this is more of a Tony question or still to figure out, but once we have all that really rich, interesting material from that community, is that something that we can share in a wider, more public capacity? Because I feel like once that sculpture is done and in place, anybody who maybe didn't know about all of that happening on the backside and they see it out of context, okay, great, cool, a really interesting, piece. But when you have the context and what went into it and what inspired it, I feel like that's where the deeper connection and engagement is going to be. So I would love to know that there's going to be a plan for how we communicate that out. Maybe that there's a web page developed that has, some of this video, some of these stories or photos or recordings of people talking, whatever it is. And there could be a QR code at the site that says, so that if you're going and you're looking at it, the sign, the plaque that we create for it says, you can scan and have this virtual engagement as well as you're seeing the thing in person. Or if there's some way to incorporate some of that in the space when you're there at the park seeing it. So whatever that looks like, I would just love to have that be part of the plan so that that material can be enjoyed just as much as the actual statue.
So I've been thinking about this quite a bit because Tony had offered some services. He makes videos. I can show you some of his stuff on YouTube. And he talked about that a lot, of doing a video for this project. And I think, although he has volunteered many services, he is also a freelancer. And I think if we're going to do it, I think it would be great to hire him to do it. And I think we do have in the budget a little bit of wiggle room, not necessarily in the budget for this project, but in our in the other things that we kind of earmarked. So I can reach out to him and see maybe what his pricing is on for that, and we can talk about it further.
I think that's great.
I was thinking kind of expanding on the multiple monarch imagery, having a QR code next to each monarch and each butterfly represent a story or something. That would be cool.
All right, anything else on that one?
Is there a timeline on when we'll have the engagement plan?
Not yet.
Okay.
Again, mostly the goal, everyone knows that the goal is to definitely get as much of this done in the first quarter because that's what we're budgeted for. And it becomes very complicated once we get out of the first quarter. But from what I've heard, it does not look like Dresden is going to be, we know Dresden's not going to be complete in the first quarter. So installation, no matter what, will be delayed outside of the first quarter. So we're already looking at having to deal with those budgetary issues. So it's still a little squishy at this point.
Okay. Squishy.
Got it.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is performance in the park. If you guys remember from our adopted plan for 2025, this project is some sort of production to take place outside in one of Chamblee's public parks. So Tanisha and I have been working behind the scenes to draft an RFP, a request for proposal. And as you can see here, the expected release date for that is February 1st. That's in about a week. I gave Tanisha a few edits, feedback on the draft of the RFP. She's got that in her inbox. And then we definitely want to share that with you guys. I imagine we could probably get that over to them by tomorrow for sure, so you could see it in full. I also have a printout here if anybody wants to read it after the meeting. But basically we want to have some discussion about about the budget specifically. We had allotted $15,000 for this whole project. And talk about, well, I wish you guys had a paper copy. That might have been a lot easier. But I can at least like go over some of the sections that we have already drafted, get you guys' feedback on that, and then we can email that out to you and then have any additional discussion about it before the 1st. RFP stands for Request for Proposal. Yes. Yes, so we put the request for proposal out, and then any production company or artist group that is interested in applying reads through that, submits an application or a submission packet that meets all of the requirements in the RFP, and then we as a group review all of the submissions that we get and choose the one that we think best meets the parameters and the goals for the project.
Is that enough time to allow for responses, do you think?
Yes, that's about 3 weeks. So once it goes out, then we just have to really push it and wait for some response. And honestly, like, you give people too much time, and I speak from my experience with my personal experience. The last week of your submission time block is when everybody sends their stuff in anyway. You get a few trickle in, like your early birds, and then it's just a tsunami of applications in your last week. So honestly, a shorter window is not an issue. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of go through this, just give you guys some of the highlights. Of course, we're wanting to this will be our first performance in the park program. The purpose is to host a free live outdoor performance in one of our city parks, as well as some sort of interactive or educational component to actively engage the community. That can be in the form of post-show talkbacks, learning workshops, etc. So that would be in the RFP to say, you tell us what that component could look like for your particular production. We're open to any type of performance, including but not limited to theater, dance, puppetry, storytelling, circus acts, etc., as long as it is suitable for all ages. And then here's something that I really want to make sure that we're all in agreement on. To make sure that the Public Art Commission programs engage all residents, preference would be given to works created or performed by Southern artists who are minorities represented in Chamblee's demographics. Bilingual performances and cultural stories would be given a higher priority. That is just something that I particularly am passionate about, and I think that this would be really interesting for us to do because that is a group that is not necessarily fully engaged in our community. So that could be Latino, that could be Asian, that could be, anything that falls under those two umbrella terms, because those are quite broad terms. That's just something that I put in here, is totally up for discussion and debate. So if anyone feels strongly about that. Also, it does say Southern. We initially decided to limit it to Southern because we were going to apply for a South Arts grant. However, that grant opportunity closed without me being aware that that was going to happen, so that's not available to us anymore. So we don't have to limit it to Southern if we don't want to. But I imagine most of our applications or submissions are going to be from local groups, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So that's kind of the overarching view, and then the rest is just about what are the specific objectives, the high quality free theatrical performance, the audience engagement, and then what are the different eligibility requirements. And so we don't have to go into the weeds on those particular things. We can send that out to you guys to look at. But I think the overall summary of what I just described, I want to make sure that we're all in agreement on. So that's where I'll open it up for discussion.
I'm fine with the bilingual stuff, almost want to be more specific, because like, for example, in Alpharetta and Fulton County, right next to us, there's a huge Indian population, which probably wouldn't go very far here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If it's a bilingual performance with English and I don't know the language off the top of my head, but you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe local community languages or something like that. I'm not sure how to address that, but
Yeah. I'm,
You did say Chamblee demographics, right? Like, could
yeah,
you could
specifically,
specify-
I did specify
region.
Hispanic, Latino, or Asian.
Okay.
And, I mean, but Indian technically qualifies, you know, as Asian. So we could dive into that a little bit more, maybe look at specifically at our demographics and those foreign language speakers, like which ones are more prevalent in our city versus
Yeah,
not.
so the two leading languages besides English are Spanish and Mandarin Chinese.
Okay.
So we could specifically say that, I think, pretty safely.
Okay, that's really good to know.
Location, what we're thinking is,
So location is a little tough because of the Dresden Park construction. We are having to use up every field that we have, including what's called the event lawn at Keswick Park, which was the original, what we were looking at as the original location. I've spoken to our events staff to make sure that we wouldn't be stepping on any toes if we held it out here on the front lawn, on the front, steps, yeah. And it sounds like, I had it written down, I believe the weekend of the May 17th and whatever that next weekend is, the 24th maybe, that those 2 weekends would be clear and we could use them. So that's probably something that we maybe need to decide before, I mean, obviously before we send out the RFP. So-
could it possibly be more than one venue? Like on the mezzanine out here, Keswick Park, you know, that way you can get, you know, maybe a little bit more diversity and
I think we'd have to double our budget if we did that.
no. Okay.
I mean, we could leave it open-ended, because if it is, say, a group that doesn't have a lot of technical needs, and there's not like a bunch of lighting and equipment and AV and, you know, all of that stuff, then they could potentially do more, or potentially more than one performance. It could be, you know, a handful of performances. And especially if they're local and they don't have to worry about travel and lodging expenses as well,
Well,
they might be able to do more with the budget than someone else.
Potentially, there could be a lot of entities that want to celebrate their own community, you know, and budget, or, you know, whether they're going to, you know, be paid for their performances may not necessarily be something they're predominantly interested in. They want to just basically have a performance for the Latinos, the Asian, so forth, the Shakespearean, you know, just to generate interest in their theater company. You know, that would not necessarily be just paying every group per se. Or is that thinking like too wishful?
If we engage artists, they should be paid.
You what?
If we engage artists and they're presenting work, they should be paid.
Yeah. But, you know,
No but. Not to be rude, but I think that if we've got a healthy amount reserved, and I hear what you're saying about trying to reach more, but I would say let's let the artists tell us what they can do with the budget, as opposed to us try to tell them. And honestly, because we're all a volunteer group, and Tanisha is not a producer, my thought process with the RFP is we're saying that we will give you the budget. You handle the production of the work and the performance. And, you know, that way they're the ones doing the actual execution of it, as opposed to us trying to get in the middle of, you know, managing multiple groups and that sort of thing. That's my particular
But it's
take on it.
also a proof of concept too. Like this is the first time we've ever done anything like this. So it would be, you know,
It might be
would be
interesting, once we
proofing.
get the applicants, to see what the character is of the different groups. Whether it's just a for-profit group that they perform and they have to be paid. There's nothing wrong with that, I agree, you know, but, you know, just take it all in when it comes in, as far as the diversity can be realized.
For sure. Okay, so we will get this application to you guys or the RFP to you guys tomorrow, and then we'll give you a deadline by which to submit any additional feedback or questions or concerns that you have for it before it's gonna be pushed out on February 1st. And then once it's pushed out, we just ask that everybody help share the opportunity among their networks. And that's all I've got. Oh, we didn't specifically address the budget question. So with the $15,000 budget, how much going to the artist versus stage or equipment rentals or whatnot, and then setting aside some for marketing. So as I said, my original concept was we give them the budget, they tell us what they're going to do with it, and they handle if they need a stage or anything else. If they need advice maybe on where to find a vendor for a stage or whatnot, I know that we've got relationships within the city, and we could maybe say, try these folks if you need a vendor. But my suggestion would be to let them handle that. But the marketing question is a good question, because I would say if they're not a local entity and we select a non-local artist group, then marketing is probably not something that they're going to be able to handle, because they don't have the local connections to do that. If they're a local company, then I would say we could absolutely ask them to, you know, promote the show to their networks, but we should also be doing some promotion of the event as well. So I don't know if we want to say knock that down to maybe 12 or 13 and then take, you know, 2,000 or 3,000 and say this amount will be allotted to marketing costs and whatever that looks like.
So, a quick thought on this. When we originally talked about this, I want to say that the original budget line item that we were looking at was 10,000, and we bumped that up kind of last minute to get up to the 165 sort of goal that we were looking at.
Okay.
So, you know, as a person who is more involved with performers like this, is 12,000 a reasonable amount?
I would say if you're expecting only one performance, and maybe we make some notes in here about it doesn't have to be limited to one. If we're doing a Saturday and a Sunday, or a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like if they could do multiple performances, I kind of think that would be great. I don't think 12,000 is anything to sneeze at, especially for a local group and a group that does not have a lot of technical needs for money, you know, because your budget could easily be eaten up by like stage rental and lights and all of that. So if there are productions that it might be an elevated stage and that's it, there's no lighting, there's no AV, or they might have some, you know, the little, what they call the little lav
Lapels.
mics, and that's all they need is just some amplified sound. You know, if their AV or technical needs are limited, and the majority of that money can go towards artist fees, then I think that that's a healthy number.
Okay. And I would feel comfortable on the other side of that with 3,000 to put towards marketing, maybe printed playbills. I don't really know what else we might need.
If we want to print any flyers to promote it beforehand,
Right.
or if we want to do any paid social media ads, which I would highly recommend.
Yeah. I think 3,000 is an okay number for that.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, what did we say, 12 and 3 or 10 and 5? Okay.
12 and
3.
And by the way, the reason I had put that submissions close on February 25th is because we have a meeting just a couple days after that. So I thought, I'll do my best to quickly put all that together so that that can be viewed at the meeting and we can choose.
Yeah, I think that would be great if we get them, to look at least a day before the meeting, and then we come in prepared to discuss and vote in the February meeting. I think that'd be perfect.
This is a dumb question, probably, but like, what if like a high school drama class is interested in this? You know what I'm saying? Like, could we pay them? You know what I'm saying? Or would it be like a donation to the school? Would we even be interested in targeting them?
I know that the art club has a foundation that you can pay at the high school. I don't know about the theater group. I want to say they also have a foundation. But I'm not sure if they would, I'm not sure if they would have the capacity
Yeah.
to prepare for it out of school. I don't know. That's a good question.
Because like, there's also like band and orchestra and stuff
Yeah.
like that there too. I don't know, just a thought.
I'm kind of leaning more towards I would like it to be a professional company as opposed to schools.
Got a quick question. Is there a time limit on that that's going to be listed in the RFP, like that says you must be able to perform for at least an hour and a half? I'm only thinking like if you have maybe a circus entertainer who says, I'm going to do this, but they can only do a
Right.
performance for 30 minutes. I'm just curious if the RFP includes anything.
It
worrying
doesn't
about-
right now, but that's a great question. We can put that in for sure.
And also thinking about, because it is outside and we never know the weather, rain dates or anything like that, just to keep that in mind. Especially if, well, I guess you're putting them in charge of renting stages and the sound and all of that themselves. They may be able to work it out when they rent that it could stay an extra day. So if the performance was not supposed to be on a Saturday, maybe they would be able to keep it on Sunday if it's already set up, that sort of thing, just to keep that in mind. I think that was it.
That's all I had.
Anything else on that? All right, so Little Free Art Gallery. I did some research this week on some options for this. And there's a Little Free Library, which is, the group that kind of started all this. And on their website, they have pre-made and they have kits that is a simple way to do it without, having to go out and buy your own wood and that kind of thing. Their kits range from $189, that's considered a mini, to, I said $419 in here. I think it's actually about $498 for their biggest one. And then if you want to do outdoor posts, which we would have to, but technically we could probably do the post ourselves. But, and then there's also an option, which I hadn't really thought about, an indoor option. They have these cute little legs instead of a post. We have not really talked about location for this at all, so I wanted to throw that in there as an option for location. I guess our only indoor option would be here, and I don't know how many people are going to come in here, but I just wanted to keep that in there. I put a note in here that it would be great to have this completed by Art Drop Week, when's Georgia Cities Week? Jody, or what month? April? Okay. So, we have a while, but it would be nice to have it as a place where people could drop, like an official art drop section. So one that I thought was really interesting was this living roof Little Free Library. And the front version, you can see, it kind of looks like a modern little museum, like with the slanted roof. I just thought it kind of looked modern. And then the living roof is basically just an open section where you can put plants. I thought that was kind of fun. And then I put the price, $319 for that one. That's without the post. And then here's just some examples of little free art galleries that I thought were adorable out on the internet, or well done. And it looks like the black one, it looks like someone had put maybe a little LED light in there, which is kind of a fun idea. Actually, the white one looks like that too. And I noticed in some of them, when I was reading the articles, that some people replaced the roof with a piece of plexiglass so that it would get natural light, which is kind of fun.
There's solar-powered, like, string lights, too.
Yeah.
I will say, like, the kits for the library, they're too vertical, I think, for me. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, because I've seen them, obviously. And they're super vertical, where like the examples that you show of the other galleries that people have around, like, they're more horizontal, and light, of course, lots of light going on with the paint and or lights itself. So I do think we need to consider, like, that shape, because the horizontal shape would give us more room, I think. The vertical shape works well for books. So I don't know if there's any kids that are like this. But the one that had the living roof, that looked a little bit more horizontal. Horizontal.
It is tiny.
It is small. It's very small.
Also, I just want to say, living roof is cute, except in the dead of summer, in that shallow
Yeah, that's pretty shallow.
planter right there, those plants are not going to last, I promise you.
I was gonna say, the upkeep on that's gonna be impossible.
So I know that for example, all of our selfie stations have been built by the Boy Scouts. And I don't, do they take suggestions for projects, or do they kind of come to us with that?
Yeah, usually the Eagle Scout and the Girl Scouts. Girl Scout is a gold award, similar to the Eagle Scout. They do approach us typically and ask, sometimes they have projects in mind, but I will say most of the time they don't. And they do take suggestions. This Girl Scouts, matter of fact, I think the free little libraries that we do have in our parks were all done by Gold Award Girl Scouts. Most of the Eagle Scout projects here lately, we've basically asked them to do the selfie stations because anything made out of wood has to be maintained. And a lot of their projects have been done in Keswick Park for the most part. But I will say that we've had to remove them over the years just because the wood rots and that sort of thing. A lot of the times they do have to come up with the funding themselves to pay for it. Sometimes they do ask for help, sponsorship help, and Lowe's has been great and gracious to help us, ensure that they get the best deal on the wood and everything else that they're buying. There's been a few occasions like where maybe on the selfie stations, anything that says it's metal and it says City of Chamblee, we paid for that, the city paid for it, and then we gave it to the scout to put on the project. It's easy to reach out to the scouts. I know we have 2 Girl Scouts right now working on Gold Awards right now. One is with Lifeline doing a video to help get people to adopt a dog, and so her project was doing a video and press releases and all that stuff. The other Girl Scout is making a tennis ball collector that is going to be on all of our tennis courts, and then she will take all those balls to Lifeline for the dogs to play with. But we haven't been reached out by any Eagle Scouts lately, but I do know several troops in the area. So if this is something you are interested in, it's possible that we could get this done for free or very minimal cost at all to us. We would just have to have the location and show them. We'd have to show them what we're looking at, and if you have the dimensions that you like, and then we would have to show them the location, and then basically, Tanisha, you would serve as the city agent and would sign off on their project.
I love that idea, because I was thinking this whole time we were talking about it is like, who's gonna actually put this thing together? So $500 covers the cost, but doesn't really cover like whoever needs to put it together. So if Eagle Scouts or the Gold Awards Girl Scouts can do it, I think that is like a win-win. And we already have the $500 budgeted, so that could at least help cover, that would cover the cost of the supplies if we don't go the kit option. So I love that solution for sure.
Yeah, we could always say that, you know, we can assist with funding if needed, because part of their thing is to raise the money themselves. Their goal in doing these projects is to communicate, look you in the eye, learn how to do sales, learn how to do purchasing, and it's building them completely, not just building the box, but also everything that leading up to that. So, I mean, you can always just let them know that, you know, we do have some funding available if needed, but they're supposed to go out and do it on their own. So
I love that solution.
I think we should try that route first, especially with the Eagle Scouts, because they do a lot of woodwork as far as like using saws, and they work together as their troop to complete it. Even though the one scout is the one getting the award, the whole troop comes together to put it together. We could go that route. I could start that process tomorrow, reaching out.
Thumbs up. Heck yeah.
So rather than we be the sole providers of these, we buy them and place them, you would bring in the scouting troops, or have I got that mixed up?
She was saying if we have the Eagle Scouts or the Girl Scouts build it, part of their responsibility when they do a project is to have to fundraise for the cost of the project. So if they have to do that, we may not necessarily have to provide funding unless they need it. So it could come out as a free project, or we have the $500 budgeted. And then they would build it. It may not be a kit, they may build it from scratch if they just get lumber from Lowe's. So,
Are we thinking of just doing one
yes.
and see how it goes?
Yeah.
Do we know where we want to put it?
That's
No.
the next question.
Oh, okay.
One of the thoughts I had was it's a library, if we could do it at the library, at the Chamblee,
where?
at the library.
I think you mentioned that before. I
Yeah.
feel like you've mentioned that when we talked about this, and because I think there's also has to be like some maintenance that has to happen. I'm not talking about like censorship or anything like that, although if it's next to the library, they might want to do that. But there's got to be some kind of maintenance just to make sure that it's being well kept, and, you know, I mean, we're constantly advertising about it so people will come bring art and take art. But I love the idea of it being at the library, because it could be, I mean, not that we want to put that responsibility on one of the librarians, but I think, you know, several of us go to the library pretty regularly. We could check in on it, talking about like the wood rotting and things, like just making sure that it's still looking good.
I'm gonna say something you're not gonna hear. I would love to see it in downtown Chamblee, and here's why. Everyone's coming down here for the restaurants. They're gonna be waiting outside for their seat to be available. They're gonna be walking their dogs. They're gonna be doing all this stuff. We have a bookstore coming in. It looks so cute close to that. And we want people that don't even know about it to see it, right? And although I love libraries, they're like in my heart forever, but it's also a dying art, right? People don't really go to libraries as often. There's Kindles, everything's online. And this, I just feel like we want people to see it. And if they're just walking down the street, oh, what's that? Oh, that's cool. Stop in and check it out.
The Florida station that's right there, like people coming and going to work and stuff like that. Like I draw on the, you know, when I'm sitting on the plane or whatever. It'd be cute just after your trip, just throw it in there, you know. I think it'd be.
I agree, it should be more trafficked area.
That's the only
Not,
problem with this.
not that a library doesn't get
Yeah, it doesn't
people,
have
but,
Yeah.
you know, parks and, you know, even up and down all the restaurants here and whatnot. I think, you know, you want as much traffic to kind of get people's attention so this concept can grow. You know, the community building at the Keswick Park has like a little alcove where, before you go in the building, which is covered. You know, that might be a good public area also. This came to mind.
I hear that. So I guess we would just maybe, if you guys want to suggest a couple of specific places to Tanisha, and then she can follow up on that. Send it to her via email.
I know we have, I can ask Lori Conway, who is our grounds and green space manager. And she's very aware of which little pockets of green space are our responsibility, you know, owned by the city, kind of next to the sidewalk. Here's a little piece where we put plants in, because we'll need something like that for it to go into the ground, unless we're gonna ask
Yeah, it's like
A
a mailbox
business.
post situation. You probably got to
Yeah.
do a cement pour or something.
yeah. So maybe she can, let us know where in downtown would be a good spot for something like that.
And you could answer this with, I mean, if it was at Keswick Park, the maintenance people who come through there all the time, they could look in and see if it needs to be cleaned up or whatever, you know, just to check it out.
There's, just food for thought, if it's possible even to, like, if it's affordable to have them build two or have two different, like, units, you know what I'm saying? Like, in front of Plaza Fiesta, there's like two churches right there, always tons of foot traffic. You know, Plaza Fiesta obviously is always packed. You know, that would be an interesting spot too. That would open it up more for kids, I think, as well, because downtown Chamblee would be more adult kind of targeted.
That's true.
Okay.
Any other thoughts?
Was there in the art drop last year, wasn't there like something like an art drop mailbox type thing?
Yeah, that was Artsy Elaine.
But was it permanent?
No, she
Okay.
basically reached out to us to ask, and it just happened to be right before Art Drop Week. She said, "Hey, I found this this old magazine, newspaper
Right.
thing,
Right.
and I'm going to paint it. You know, do you have a spot where you would want to do something with it?" And I said, "Actually, it'd be really cool." So we put it in Keswick Park.
Okay.
Yeah,
But it
for-
wasn't permanent?
No, it was there
Okay.
for, I think, 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then she came and picked it back up. And she still has it, though, so we could definitely ask her if we could do it again
Oh, yeah.
this time.
Is it too premature just to say, well, regardless of whether the scouts will do it, just to buy one and try it out? Or is that going too fast or what?
Well, it would, let's find out if we can get it done without using our budget first.
Okay.
We could have them too, like, these have little cute words and decorations and stuff like that, like maybe having them propose a drawing or two that they could put on the art box and stuff. I'm sure there's one or two creative kids in there, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, on the agenda, we have nothing under new business.
Before we move on from new business, because I was just kind of looking back at our timeline for 2025 and seeing what other things we should be doing or focusing on for other projects. And so I know the matching mural grants there's a draft of that program as well. And I think that some folks in the, on city staff wanted to review that before we go anywhere with that. So I'm just wondering if there's a status update on that. And then the Chamblee Tucker retaining wall, and we had outlined that we would begin researching ownership of that retaining wall. So if you, I don't know if you've been able to make any progress on that. If not, I'm happy to try to reach out to who might potentially own that space that is the parking lot on the other side of the retaining wall, and they might know, or if that needs to maybe be some city folk to say who technically owns the wall.
So the first issue, the matching mural grant, I do not have an update on that. That is still with city staff.
Okay.
I sent over everything that we had created over the past, really 2 years, because it was actually, we wanted to do it last year and it didn't end up happening. So I sent over all that information, and I've not gotten feedback on it yet.
Okay.
The Chamblee Tucker retaining wall, I have not moved forward on that. Can you send me like a pin, like a GPS pin where
yeah.
it is? Because I can send that over to the GIS guys, and they
Okay.
can tell me exactly who, what, where, when, why, everything about that wall.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I guess I didn't go on an adventure in Google Maps to find it.
No problema. Thank you. That's all I had. So then we are at the public comment portion of our meeting. Anyone? Marco? Bueller? All right, no public comment, so then I will take a motion to
Oh, just
adjourn.
2 seconds.
Oh,
I did see where there was some question as far as the Babe walls, that there was an area that made mention that we needed to get somebody in there, and it looked like graffiti or something. What's the status of that, and what are we doing?
So no status as of yet. The graffiti coating was put on everywhere but that section of the wall so that we could paint over it as needed. I did reach out to the original artist of that part of the wall, and I never heard back. I reached out to Babe Walls to get a little bit of, I don't know, hand-holding on how I should deal with it. They said, go ahead and reach out again and then get back to us, and we'll take care of it if you don't hear from her. I have not taken that additional step yet. I think if she doesn't have any interest of coming out and extending her mural, that we will likely make that section into, one of the ideas was a chalkboard, paint it with a chalkboard, and then have a container of chalk out. So a couple other cities
Okay,
have been
but,
doing
yeah,
that.
something is, you're going forward and having somebody look at that issue. Yeah. Okay. And we're not talking about the Moondog thing because the city council didn't meet last?
I have not gotten feedback on it.
so still with,
Still with city staff and
So
legal.
in the time being, that mural just stays until we tell them yes or no or something of that
Correct.
nature?
Did I miss something? Was it,
were you at the December meeting?
was I?
You didn't miss anything. She had come to speak to us about it, and we took it off of us and gave it to the city's legal counsel to.
I thought he was
handle.
saying something about the Babe Wall mural being graffitied.
Oh, no, not
No.
graffitied.
That's what I heard, was graffiti.
Okay, so there's a section of, the mural that was a community wall. We thought that the community wall was going to be basically painted over and become part of that next mural. That didn't happen, and so we were trying to find out if the artist would come back and do that or not.
So Sorry, I can't hear anything on that side of the room.
If we don't get a response, we can discuss about how we would like to deal with that in
Yes.
terms of
I'm
getting commission
basically,
another entity or something of that nature.
yeah, we are being kind in reaching out to the artist to see what her preference would be.
And incidentally, I don't know if we can do anything about this, but as you enter it from the west side, from the park side where the baseball field is, right underneath you know about that
The
water
city's
issue?
aware, yeah, it's not a Chamblee, city of Chamblee issue.
It's
It-
not?
It's not,
It's DeKalb County?
DOT.
Or it's all our water? Yeah. Okay. Well, can we ask them politely to fix it?
We have many, many times.
We already
yeah.
have?
Yes, it's been an ongoing issue for a while. yeah.
Have there been any comments, just in general, that came in once that's been completed?
Only positive, wonderful things online.
Good.
All right. Anything else before we adjourn? All right. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Polina. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. All right. And all in favor of adjourning? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, everybody make sure their things are off.